What's up, interwebs? Welcome to the Storytime Podcast. I'm Tim Green.
And I'm Adam Daly.
And this is Season 1 of the Storytime Podcast. If you're familiar with the Skylar Graham podcast that was going on here, it's going to be similar to that, but that's a different. We're not going to be doing much with that. Similar format, but we're more structured. We will still have fun. But we're going through my first novel I ever wrote and completed, which is Angelic Wars, Legend of the Godchild, Book 1.
Yeah.
This is the first book I ever wrote, and I thought this would be a great one to follow up, but I decided we wanted to rebrand. And we're going to be doing more. This is the official Season 1 of the Storytime Podcast. And what we're going to do is Adam will read Chapter 1 for this episode, and each episode will be a chapter. And then we'll discuss that chapter based on what happens in the chapter. And as the the episodes go on, we'll probably refer back to previous chapters to see how the story is actually, if it flows together or is there big plot holes, stuff like that. And see how well my first novel was compared to our first time actual writing one. But with that being said, Adam, do you want to anything?
Unlike a previous reading I did, I'm taking the characters a little bit more seriously this time around.
Yes, I mean, I think there's there's a few tertiary characters that have a little spot, but then they are gone.
Yeah,
that are kind of a little bit you can have more fun with. But overall, like, we're not gonna have what?
Yeah, we're not gonna have
the entire character thing is asking questions.
It's not gonna be like that at all.
No, and I don't know if we'll have our catchphrases.
Nah, I don't really think so this time.
We may, but you never know.
It could happen.
So, Adam, we're gonna just so you know, Adam has pre-read all these chapters. This time we're gonna go with that one. Yeah, I'm gonna tell him.
Oh, I can't believe it.
And so we're gonna transition into the reading. And then after the reading, we'll come back and discuss the chapter.
Angelic Wars, Legend of the Godchild. Written by Timothy R. Green. Narrated by Adam Daly. Angelic Wars, Book 1. Chapter 1. Unexpected Delivery. Dear Dr. David Toller, I have been told by many close friends that you have been searching for many years for evidence to prove that the Penetrovox existed. If you open the wood box, you will find all the proof you need to prove it surely does exist. I leave it in your care. I have no use for the scroll or the desire for the fame it would bring. I have a feeling that you will have more use for this scroll than I ever could. Only myths and legends exist on this scroll, and not in much detail. However, I am positive if you search with all your resources, you will find what you need. Sincerely, a friend. With the finding of that letter and the wooden box that contained the Penetrovox in it, Dr. David Toller began a search through his personal library for any information he could find on the scroll. Just as the letter said, only myths and legends he could find. Struggling with not being able to find the information that he was looking for, he recounted how only hours before the scroll arrived, he thought his plans were ruined for the night by the full moon. A bright silver light shone from the sky that lit up what might normally covered. All with dark hearts stayed indoors, fearing their deeds would be revealed. With much to do and the moon so bright, Dr. Toller worried that he would fall behind schedule and would not accomplish his goals. Well, that was until around 9, when a knock at his door would change everything. When the butler answered it, all that was found was a well-carved wooden box with a letter taped to it on the doorstep. The box was clearly the work of master craftsmen. The butler brought the box to the elderly man in the dining room. After almost dying upon seeing the wooden box in his butler's hands, Dr. Toller quickly read the letter. Before he could finish it, he opened the box. There it was. The Penetrovox, very old parchment with a blood-red lace wrapped around it with a black wax seal to keep it tight. Not able to contain himself from knowing what was written on this much-desired scroll by many ancient civilizations, he carefully picked up the scroll and lifted up the wax so it would not tear the parchment. Once he removed the wax, he unrolled the scroll and could not believe his eyes. The text was written in an ancient form of Latin that he had not seen for years. Eager to know what the scroll said, Dr. Toller stood up from his chair at the table and walked over to a cabinet and pulled out a handheld light. He closed the cabinet door and returned to his chair and pulled out his laptop computer and turned it on. As he waited for it to boot up, he finished reading the rest of the letter. Several questions came up in his mind as he read the writer's words. Does this person mean by I may have more use for this scroll? Dr. Toller asked. Also, what does this person mean about all my resources? That's when he noticed his computer had finished loading, so he hooked the handheld light up to the computer. He clicked on a program that could translate ancient languages very fast. Once the program finished loading, he began to scan the scroll with the light very cautiously. Once he was done, he clicked on the button to translate. He became very excited to finally know what this scroll actually said and why so many wars were fought over it. As minutes went by, Dr. Toller became very impatient. What normally took only moments was taking even longer. Not even the title of the scroll had been translated. After 10 minutes, the words, "The Legend of the God," appeared in translation box. Dr. Toller almost exploded with rage when that was all that was translated. However, he was able to calm himself. Another few minutes went by and the word child appeared next to God. "The Legend of the Godchild," Dr. Toller said. He became even more interested in what the scroll said. Quickly checked the translation time for the rest of the scroll. He almost lost it once he saw that it was going to take 72 hours, which was only a guess. It could be longer or sooner. Not wanting to wait, he now had something that he did not the last time he searched for information on the scroll. He could now search under "The Legend of the Godchild." Packing up his computer very quickly, he headed upstairs to his personal library. Once at his desk, he opened his computer so he could continually check for any new translations that appeared. The search began, and before he knew it, 3 hours had passed by. Fearing that his night was ruined, he now had purpose. However, this ended when he still could not find anything in all of the books in his library. With many more to check, he found nothing new. At one point, he took a break and re-examined the letter and came to the part about using all of his resources. So he gave a call to someone whom he felt might be able to help him. With an hour's drive before the person could get there, Dr. Toller was starting to wish that he'd not been given the scroll. After hours of finding nothing, Dr. Toller sat in his chair behind his desk, and the very impatient look had returned. The look made him look much older than he was. In his early 60s, he had a gray goatee that matched his full head of hair. His eyes were dark brown, and there were wrinkles on his forehead. He was a very tall man, only a few inches shy of 7 feet. This allowed him to intimidate those shorter than he, which he loved to do. Being so tall, he was skin and bones. However, he was very strong for his age and usually surprised people. That was when a much younger man stepped into the library. He had dark brown hair and eyes, clearly in his early 30s. He was also very tall, but nowhere as tall as Dr. Toller. He walked over to a chair that was right in front of Dr. Toller's desk. He sat down in the chair and looked right at him. "So, what was so important that you could not wait until tomorrow?" asked the young man. "Dr. Piper," Dr. Toller said, "I'm glad you could come." "I drove an hour," he responded. "Why did you drag me out of bed?" "I have acquired an item that falls in your field of knowledge," Dr. Toller said. "What is it? An old book?" he asked. "No," replied Toller. "It's an ancient scroll." "You dragged me here in the middle of the night for an ancient scroll, which is your field," Dr. Piper shouted. "Yes," said Dr. Toller. "I am out of here," Dr. Piper said, standing up. "Jacob!" "What?" "I said this scroll falls in your field," Dr. Toller continued. "However, I never said what field that was." "I am a librarian," Dr. Piper said. I deal with old books and history. That is it. Also ancient languages, Dr. Toller said. You know, the ones that have spells written in. Dr. Piper froze for a second, as something that Dr. Toller just said had caught him off guard. He turned and faced him with a most unpleasant look. So, you know my secret, he said. You must die now. I cannot allow anyone to know that information. Relax, silly boy, Dr. Toller said. I am not going to tell anyone. I only know because I like to know all I can about the people I hire at my school. Now sit down. Dr. Piper took a seat once again, now with somewhat of an interested look on his face as well as an impatient one. Go on, Dr. Piper said. The scroll I came across is called the Penetro Vox, Dr. Toller said. I've been searching for years for this artifact. Now I have it, but I cannot translate it. My computer is taking forever to translate it into English. I've only gotten the title completely translated. What is the title? Asked Dr. Piper. The Legend of the Godchild, answered Dr. Toller. Dr. Piper's eyes widened at the mention of the title. I knew you were the person to go to, Dr. Toller said. You've heard of it. I have, Dr. Piper said. I don't know much. I only know that many people, like me, would love to get their hands on it. I'm not sure why. Where did you get it? It just showed up on my doorstep tonight, answered Dr. Toller. It's written in an ancient form of Latin, which is why I think the translation program is having such a problem. Where is it? Asked Dr. Piper. It's in the box right in front of you, Dr. Toller said, pointing to the wood box. Dr. Piper took the top of the box and looked inside. There the scroll was. He picked it up and began to look it over. Dr. Toller almost had a heart attack when he saw how careless he was as he handled the scroll. This parchment is very old, Dr. Piper said after a few moments. I know, Dr. Toller said. That is why you should be careful with it. I do not think you realize how old this parchment is, Dr. Piper said. Yes, it is old, but I can feel energy coming off it, meaning the person who wrote this scroll wanted it to stay around and not age as fast as it normally would. Are you sure? I am positive, he replied. I must take a closer look. Let me take it with me and examine it. Absolutely not, Dr. Toll said, standing up from his chair. That scroll is staying with me. Did not mean I wanted to take it to my home, Dr. Piper said. Let me look at it more closely by myself. This way I can fully concentrate. I am not too sure about that, Dr. Toll said. However, go. You have 1 hour to examine the scroll the best you can. Okay, Dr. Piper said. He put the scroll back in the wooden box. As he stood, he picked up the box and placed it under his right arm and walked out the door to the hall and out of sight. Wondering if he should check to make sure Dr. Piper did not leave, Dr. Toller stood up and walked towards the entrance of the library. A book caught his eye. Turned his head so he could read the title. Once he did, his face lit up. There have you been, he said, grabbing the book and returned to his desk, which was an exact copy of one Franklin Roosevelt had in the Oval Office. It was made entirely out of American wood with an exterior of Michigan maple. He sat down in his chair, placed the book upon the desktop, and began searching through the book. After several minutes, he stopped turning the pages as frequently. He found what he was looking for. Well, something close to it. He began quickly writing down several words from the page he was reading. Once he was done writing, closed the book, and pushed it off to the side. He pulled his laptop computer in front of him. He minimized the translating program. Clicking on the internet icon, he began to search the words he had written down. One by one, he began to slowly but surely cross out all of the words he wrote down. Not one of them brought him any new information on the scroll. Of these books, has to have some kind of information about that scroll, murmured Dr. Toller. I have enough of them on rare myths and legends, but which ones would it be in? After glaring at his computer, he remembered an old site that he once came across by mistake. The name of that site he could not remember, but it had information on all mythical artifacts that were supposedly not real. He began to search for the site. Every way of how to describe the site came up with no search results. Finally, he typed in MAD. Many resources came up, but he noticed one such result that did not fit with the other search results. Mystical Artifact Database. He clicked the link, and he was back at the site. Finally, he said, maybe I can get some information now. He typed in Penetrovox. 20 pages of information appeared on the screen. All of the information was on how different people could have been the writer of the scroll. Merlin was one of the most likely people who wrote it. After reading the whole article, he found no mention of what was actually written on the parchment. This infuriated Dr. Toller. The one piece of information he was looking for was not mentioned. He pounded his fist on his desk really hard, still angry, as he noticed Dr. Piper was standing in the doorway. Should I come back? Asked Dr. Piper. Dr. Toller looked at the clock. An hour had gone by, so he waved him to come in. Dr. Piper walked in and sat down in the same chair, placed the box on the desk where it was before he took it. So what did you discover? Dr. Toller asked. I am sure that this scroll is the Penetrovox, he answered. The energy coming off the scroll is very powerful. Only a mighty sorcerer could have done that. My guess is that this scroll was written back around the time of Moses, if not earlier. How could that be possible? Dr. Toller asked. The sorcerer was very strong who wrote it, Dr. Piper said. How does this explain the form of Latin? Dr. Toller asked. Once I determined how old the scroll was, I asked myself the same question, Dr. Piper answered. I believe the enchantment that the writer put on this was not only to keep it from aging normally, but it was so that the person who was reading it would be able to translate it. Why not just turn it into the language that reader can read? Dr. Toller asked. I have a feeling that it was like that, Dr. Piper continued. However, the writer changed his mind so that only someone who desires to know what it says would take the time to translate it. This could explain why your program is taking so long to translate it. Did you find out what it says? Dr. Toller asked. No, answered Dr. Piper. I am not familiar with that form of ancient Latin. Do you know anywhere you could find out any more information on the scroll? Dr. Toller asked. Yes, Dr. Piper said. Not here, though. I would have to go to the Forbidden Crypt of Magic. There are records in there on absolutely everything. Great, Dr. Toller said. When can you leave? Never, Dr. Piper said. I have class tomorrow and other more important items to do. I never said you had a choice, did I? Dr. Toller said. I want you to leave ASAP and report back to me anything you find. Do not order me around, Dr. Piper shouted, standing up. I could kill you in so many ways that you would not know what happened. Oh, really? Dr. Toller said. I dare you to try, because you would be dead before you could take a step. Are you sure about that? Dr. Piper asked. Yes, Dr. Toller said, pointing across the room to an incense burner. It is called the Scent of the Fold. Any magic done in the room where it is lit will cause the users to be hit by the same thing threefold. You must have gotten it through one of your connections, Dr. Piper said. Yes, Dr. Toller said. However, did you notice that I left the door open, making my whole house a barrier against magic? Now get going. I will make sure your classes are taken care of until you get back. I will go, Dr. Piper said. However, you will pay for this one day. I am sure I will, Dr. Toller said. However, until that day comes. Dr. Piper headed for the hallway down the steps. He did not wait for the butler to open the door for him. He opened it and slammed it shut. Dr. Toller laughed as if he had won a major battle with ease. After a few moments, he thought about something, then walked back over to his chair behind his desk and sat down. He leaned forward and picked up the old-fashioned telephone and dialed a number. He sat back and listened to the phone ring. After 4 rings, a voice on the other side picked up. Hello, said the voice. Daniel, Dr. Toller said. Yes? Who is this? It's David. Dr. Toller said, do you have any free time tomorrow? I want to talk about the Coven. I am sorry, Daniel said. I am busy all day tomorrow. However, the day after I am free in the afternoon. Great, replied Dr. Toller. Okay, Daniel continued. I'll swing by around 4.
Okay, so, Adam, for the first chapter, what are your thoughts?
First of all,
big pictures. Let's go big picture.
I did a glorious job with this chapter.
Actually, you did. I love the dialogue and how you did each of Dr. Toller and Jacob Piper.
Yeah, they had very distinct characters.
Yes.
The
clipping on Jacob.
Oh, yes.
Especially when he got annoyed.
It starts off, he's a very clipped speaker.
Yep.
In my mind, I went with, I'm glad you brought it up, Giles from Buffy.
Yes.
I also thought of
younger Giles
Oh,
from
absolutely.
Buffy.
I also thought of Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock.
I've never seen those episodes.
Great.
I know they're great, but I've just never seen them.
I'm
superior.
The character is very smart.
And I'm superior. And
knows his place in the world. And knows that speaking longer with somebody is absolutely a waste of his time.
Yeah. But yeah, like, you really did get it really, like, from just the brief description of the characters I gave to you ahead of time.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was actually, because I actually knew the characters ahead of time.
Super helpful.
Yeah, I didn't know, we're, like I said, we're taking this a little bit more serious.
Yeah.
I gave Adam all the major characters and a little bit description of, because I'm transcribing this novel, because my PDF of it, I encrypted back in 2007 where you can't copy and paste. So I have to transcribe.
Can you rotate it though?
What?
Can you rotate a PDF?
I think so.
I have no idea. I don't use PDF, so I don't even know how to make a PDF, honestly.
They're a lot easier now than they were back in 2007, I can tell you that much.
All right.
But anyway, so I have to transcribe it. So I'm actually almost done. I have 2 more chapters to scribe when we're recording this. And so I had a better understanding of the characters, so I would actually provide this for him, which I wanted to do anyway, because we could take it a little bit more prepared, instead of like,
Here's a sight read. Have fun.
Yeah, have fun.
I'm not even going to tell you what these characters are.
Yeah, because I don't know. I can't remember them because it was 10 years ago. This is almost 20 years ago.
And yet you remember the characters so much better.
Well, because I've been transcribing it.
Well, that's true.
But overall, what do you think of the flow of the chapter?
It's a wonderful, wonderful setup. I'll be honest. This chapter.
Yep.
Was your version of the man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed.
Yeah.
Like, you are giving us that there is a mystery right away.
Yep.
What is this scroll?
Yep.
I almost said tablet, and I was like, no, that's not right.
That's in the later versions.
Yeah. What's this scroll? Who is this person that reached out to Dr. Toller? Yeah. What was Dr. Toller's original plans for the evening?
Yeah, let's go.
Because that's hinted at right away.
Yeah. There were none.
Okay.
Because I can tell you right now,
he was going to run around his own backyard naked.
Because actually, my original version of this chapter, was a little bit more artsy. It wasn't like super purple prose, but it was like a full moon shone, and it was it's one of those, I was describing one of those bright full moon nights where you're out and it's like
a shadow is being cast.
Yeah, you can see and it was kind of described like people of dark hearts or evil intentions. It's one of those nights they stay inside. Yes,
it's almost at levels of the bat symbol in the sky.
But it was one of the things where I can't remember the reason why I changed it. I kind of wish I kept it, but I do like how this one opens.
Oh, yeah.
I do try to keep a version of that in this chapter when it's described.
It was there.
But it was not as good as the one I originally wrote.
It comes across more as Dr. Toller had other plans for the evening, and then this letter and package showed up.
But the moon was more of it, but like, yeah, it was little things. But I never knew what the plans were.
No.
Because everyone, if you ever followed me on the channel, you know I'm a planner. This is before I realized I was a planner.
Ah, okay.
Though I did have chapter summaries of this entire book, but I did not see that as planning, apparently.
No,
no, it's planning.
It's still planning.
But I still saw myself as a pantser somehow.
Okay.
Don't ask me how. But yeah. My early ventures into noveling, I was an idiot. Though I knew a lot about writing, but I didn't make connections until later.
I mean, as an opening chapter, you've done a great job of opening up a lot of questions.
Yeah, this is not an opening chapter. This is a
prologue.
It's a prologue, and it's right here in my notes.
Because especially since it has nothing to do with the actual main characters.
This book, this is not going to be spoilers or anything, but we do get point of views from the villains throughout the book.
Well, that's good. Sometimes you need to.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where I wanted to build that up, because I think I remember it was a Christian book series, because this is when I was a Christian.
Oh, yeah.
In my life. That I was reading a book series, I think it was called Dragon in Our Midst, that had some point of views from the villain side. So I was kind of using that as a basis.
I mean, the best villain is something that anybody can go.
Yep.
I mean, he's got a point.
I was also ripping off Shadowmancer, which was a book written out in England by a former vicar.
Okay.
And it's a similar setup, spiritual warfare, but it was 18th century England.
All right.
And it became known as Hotter Than Potter. Because the reason why I said became Hotter Than Potter, because he self-published it originally, and he got picked up as by a publisher.
Oh, okay.
They fixed it up. They made it better, and released paperback the same day book 5 of Harry Potter came out. She went up number 1 in hardcover. He went up number 1 in paperback.
Wow.
So, and I remember hearing this because how I used to follow that stupid 700 Club.
Ooh.
Yes, I feel.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And that's how I heard about it. So I wanted to read it, and I got it. It actually just came over from England. It was a U.S. cut version, so I was able to get it, and I read it and I loved it.
So it had elevators and not lifts.
Yes, exactly.
It had apartments and not flats.
Yeah, exactly.
I say keep to the writer's original language.
But so after I read it, I'm like, okay, now I gotta read a Harry Potter book so I can say this is better. I never had an issue with Harry Potter. I love the movies. I wasn't one of those Christians who like Harry Potter's the devil. I liked it.
He's using magic though.
But I wanted to be able to say this Christian book was better written, and I actually had book 4 paperback that I started reading years ago, and then I gave up on. But I kind of remembered what happened.
You started with book 4?
Well, no, I started with book 3 because I just came out of saw movie 2.
Why would you do that?
I'm telling you, I literally just came out of seeing the second movie, and I saw it at the bookstore, Borders, in the mall in Oneonta.
Oh, Borders, I remember that one.
And I bought it. I got 2 chapters in it and didn't care. I wasn't a reader at the time, though. I was not a reader.
Because that is movie 2 and book 2 is where the story.
Book 2 is still somewhat closer to it.
Oh, it is.
But yeah.
But there's threads starting to be dropped from the books into the movies.
Yeah. But so I started reading book 3.
The House Elf Revolution.
Then I just couldn't care because I wasn't a reader. After movie 3 came out, I saw book 4 paperback. And it was a discounted price. Let me try that again. I got like 6 or 7 chapters in. Like I got pretty far in the beginning, and again, I think
4 is the Triwizard Tournament.
Yes.
Ah, okay. That was actually a really. I
stopped right before the specific thing. And I'll tell you I'm going to say in a second. But it was. I got further in. I think I was just starting to become a reader, but I wasn't right there yet. So I stopped again. Well, so I picked it up. I cannot remember if I started over or not. I'm pretty sure I probably started over. But I breezed through it, and I got to where I left off. The next chapter where I left off was the Quidditch World Cup. The most exciting thing, like that.
That, and then the Death Eaters, and then we go right to school.
Okay, so let me explain what happened with Harry Potter. After reading that book, that chapter, my next paycheck, I went and bought the entire series collection through book 5 in hardcover because I like hardcovers.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
There. Oh, by the way, this was the summer book 6 had just come out.
Okay.
And when I was buying this, they said you might want to buy the 6th book in hardcover now too because it's 30% off. After like a few months, I'm like, nope, I didn't. Right there when I was buying it because I was going home for the day because it was about 6. It was hour drive to my home. I literally went from Borders in Binghamton, Johnson City, New York, to Borders in Oneonta's Mall, and to buy. I'm like, nope, you're right.
I'm buying it.
Yep. So, but that's there. And well, as much as I loved Shadowmancer, I cannot say it was better than Harry Potter. But I love the idea of the sports werewolf. That's where this idea came for this whole novel. So, but yeah, and there's a lot of point of views from the villain in Shadowmancer. So I kind of stole from there too.
Oh, good.
But I do believe from Dragon in the Mist which I was reading at the time, also affected it as well. But yeah, this is a prologue. Yeah. That's a long way to say a prologue.
This is a little prologue.
But yeah, it fits better as a prologue. If I was to redo this chapter, now it would be a prologue.
This is a prologue.
It fits really well. Also, I would know what Dr. Toller's plans were.
Yes. And probably give us a little bit. You know, I like you do this compared to Skylar Grant. Way more description.
Yeah, that's gonna change.
Damn it!
Because this is
also
heavily dialogue novel.
Oh yeah. How did they? Because Piper and Toller had that conversation at the desk.
Yep.
And then suddenly, Toller is holding the door open for Piper to leave the room.
Don't worry, Adam.
They never.
Adam, You're asking a question you're going to regret.
No, I'm not going to regret this.
Yes.
Because you didn't tell me how they moved around. Suddenly they teleported? Is that what's going on here?
No, I'm saying there's something you're going to regret because in later chapters, you're going to get too many directions.
Oh.
But
I like direction.
I told you before, in Skylar Grant podcast, I like to do turn by turn so you can follow along. I do that here.
No.
This is before I did maps too, but I had a better underflow of some things. For some reason I didn't have maps, but I had a better visual. I could picture this so much better than Skylar Grant because I was pantsing Skylar Grant.
Oh, absolutely.
Full on pantsing. But yeah, you're
By the way, Dr. Toller's house in my mind, it is what's the word I'm looking for? A Tudor style house.
Yes, but no.
Tudor.
Yeah, but no. It's supposed to be I described this thing in different ways where it could be a smaller house on a bigger piece of property.
Yeah.
It could also be a mansion.
Well, yeah. No. It has its own library.
No.
Oh.
It's like different times when I'm describing the house, it's like I'm describing.
It goes from cottage to 10-bedroom mansion.
I think the way you could describe it is based at the way you're looking at it. It could look one way,
right?
But then you get to a different one. Oh no, it is this way. Oh no, it is this way. But I never actually make it sound that way. But again, first novel.
Yeah, exactly.
So, because I didn't have plot, I think I had summaries of things, so I was kind of pantsing the chapters as I was writing it, but I knew where I had to go for it. Again, still didn't see that as planning. The chapters.
That's not planning. No,
it's planning. But again,
it's not planning.
I'm an idiot. But also, I love
the pantsing with an outline.
Yeah, actually, it is.
Yeah,
It is a version of pantsing and planning, but I saw myself as full on pantsing somehow. Don't ask me.
Okay, all right.
But I do love the very end of the chapter with Daniel and talking about coven. We're talking about the cult. I mean, coven.
Is it a coven? Is it a cult?
It's a cult.
Is Piper also part of that coven / cult? Well, what is he part of?
But yeah, no.
Because clearly he knows about the dark arts.
He's a cult.
He's not Snape.
This is cult. This is a cult.
Oh.
But they refer themselves as covens.
Okay.
But it's a cult.
It's definitely a cult.
It's definitely a cult.
All right, good.
If I go any more details from other things, it'll be spoilers for later in the book. But at this point, I didn't know what their goals were or anything. Because, again...
You should know these things.
Well, this is, again, before I planned it, so I didn't world build anything beforehand. which is one of the reasons why I couldn't get the story or these other ideas for sequels with an episodic but with an overarching story to work after this until later in 2009 when I made some changes and it actually had better. Took time for Roar Bullet.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I had no clue there. But overall, I was actually impressed with how well this chapter. Yes, it needs work. It's not a perfect chapter. There's grammar that needs to be fixed. Some more descriptive language in there could be used, and better understanding of what was Dr. Toller going to plan to do. Maybe try to slip some background in about Dr. Toller, because we got a little bit of background, teeny tiny, on Jacob Piper.
A little bit. Enough to raise questions.
Yes, but we definitely need some description and need some background on the butler.
Definitely the butler. Who is this butler? Why is this butler? What is his purpose in life?
Who is this butler?
Why?
Why is this butler? What is this butler?
Ooh, no. That's the real question.
Oh, by the way, I'm pretty sure the butler doesn't show up ever again.
Probably not.
No, I think he shows up in one other scene and we never see him again.
All right.
But yeah, overall, it's like, it wasn't a bad introduction.
The butler's the real bad guy.
That would be funny. But it's a good introduction to two antagonists.
Yes.
We're leaning clearly towards Dr. Toller, towards an antagonist, a major antagonist. But there's some questions about Jacob there, too.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. Like,
could Dr. Piper be the antagonist to an antagonist without being a protagonist?
Wow.
I mean, it's possible.
It's true. So, but yeah, overall, any other thoughts?
Very freaking good.
Yeah.
Compared to a previous book that I may have read, this is better.
I have said this name of this book multiple times. You can say the name.
Oh, you mean Skylar Grant?
Yes.
The Chronicles of Skylar Grant.
That was still... I'm glad we did
the episodic Chronicles of Skylar Grant.
Yeah. Where Skylar is the main character. And Jenny said is dead. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
That's all the title of the book.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Skylar gets mentioned 4 times in the title.
But, yeah. Anything else you want to add to this?
No, not really.
But it's a good prologue to set up so you know, but it shouldn't be the first chapter.
No, but it should start your book.
Yes, it's a good start, because the next chapter, wouldn't make sense to start the book.
No.
But it's a good first chapter.
Good first chapter.
Back in 2004. 2005 when I was writing this. Not necessarily now.
I mean...
But, yeah.
We'll get to that next episode.
Yes, we will. But, okay, so we're going to wrap this episode up here. So, what did you think of this chapter? Did you enjoy it? Did you find it interesting? Have you listened to Skylar Grant and you compared or not? Let us know down in the comment section. If you did like this, it would be great if you would smash that like button to help us out. But do it as a prayer to the holy algorithm.
The holy algorithm.
And subscribe, because I have writing content on this channel because it's a writing channel. And speaking of that content, it'll be on screen now. Whatever is best for you will be come on, so we'll get there. And for that, also if you're listening to this after the podcast season 1 wraps up, there will be a link to the full audiobook available. Thank you for listening. Bye.